Hi guys, and welcome to another Red Gaming Tech video. This is going to be kind of linked to my previous characters video, but instead of just talking about what makes a specific character work, I'm going to discuss why I think so many games get female characters wrong specifically. Now, the character I want to talk about as an example of a female character that's very well rounded and well realised is Heather from Silent Hill 3. In my opinion, she is one of the more realistic female characters in gaming, especially when you compare her to some of the female characters to come out of recent years. She's presented very well within the story as a pretty much ordinary teenage girl, which is particularly impressive considering the very surreal game that she features in. She actually, in my opinion, acts like a human being rather than a robot with boobs who's just there for eye candy. Now, when we begin the game, Heather is almost immediately thrown into the surreality of the Silent Hill universe. We are given some time to be introduced to her character before this, of course, which does help to give us a compass with which to judge her future reactions by. She is stubborn, determined, and strong-willed, and these characteristics remain consistent throughout the game. And although of course she does learn and adapt from what happens around her, these characteristics are still pretty much consistent, and you can see them throughout how she interacts with the world and some of the with the characters that she meets along the way as well. She is kind of similar to James from Silent Hill 2 in that she is shrouded in mystery, but she acts more normal than he does in my opinion, because what is hidden from the player is also hidden from Heather herself, because just of the way the story is. I'm not going to go into specifics because I don't want to ruin anything for anyone who hasn't actually played the game. This is another method of better immersing the player in the world and better connecting with the character by having the character be a vessel for the player's questions. And also their reactions, obviously, because Heather is just pretty much an ordinary teenage girl. When she sees all these horrible and bizarre things, especially when you're in the nightmare world in Silent Hill 3, she reacts pretty much how you would expect a normal person to react when they're thrown into such an unusual and almost hallucinogenic situation. So, Heather's mystery helps us become intrigued by a character and question what the game is hiding from us. Also, in a way, she serves as a better vessel for the player than James from Silent Hill 2. She reacts more normally to the bizarre happenings, as I already said. Just because James is kind of crazy, and although obviously Heather has some deep mystery herself, like I said earlier, it's hidden from her as well, rather than James being fully aware of his mystery to some degree. So she reacts more normally and just comes across more normally, even though she does have this big secret hidden within her. Overall, Heather is a well-rounded and fleshed out character in general, and is one of the most standout characters in gaming, and definitely one of the best female characters, especially compared to recent years, as I've already mentioned. Now, in my opinion, many female characters these days tend to fall into two main archetypes. The first one is the helpless princess type, which kind of speaks for itself. This kind of character is very much a stereotypical girly girl, sweet, kind and gentle, and pretty much inept in battle. Examples of this character, well, one example, sorry, is the absolute master and brainless princess is Princess Peach. She's one of the most obvious examples, but she is also one of the best. Peach literally only exists as a convenient plot device that is only there to get kidnapped and drive the story forward. Another less obvious example is Kairi from Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, obviously. In the first game, she's not even conscious. She is literally an empty shell that's driving Sora forward and providing some personal stakes in the bigger goings-on that he's thrown into. Now, the next main archetype is the tough I don't need men type. This archetype is obviously designed to be the opposite of the princess type and was probably originally intended to offer some diversity from that archetype, but nowadays it's become as much of a cliche and is, in my opinion, incredibly boring and overused. One example of this archetype is Farah from Prince of Persia: Two Thrones. The worst thing about this, though, is that in Sands of Time, she's actually a very well realised character, but in Two Thrones she is turned into a badass action girl and completely lacks any of the personality she had in the first game. It's probably made due to them having different writers or something, but it doesn't really matter why, it's still a relevant point. She's completely wooden and just uninteresting in my opinion. Now, I think that the main issue with females in gaming is that they are far too often used as an object of sex without any substance at all, and that's all they're there for. They're literally there is to have some boobs on the cover to convince guys to play the game. And also there is one other thing that Extra Credits pointed out in one of their videos. It seems to be assumed that the things are associated with females, i.e. loving pink, being Jamor and all that good stuff, are something all women have. And obviously that's not the case. I personally think that female characters don't need any special treatment and should be treated as any male character would be, with all kinds of diversifying factors that can make them more real to the player, rather than, you know, trying to make them some Jamor girly girl that, you know, doesn't probably exist in the real world. I mean, this is a really complicated issue, and obviously all of this is completely subjective to my opinion. You could completely disagree with everything I said, and that would be your right, but I still think that this is a major problem. I mean, when I was writing this article, I was trying to think of some characters to use as an example of well fleshed out female characters, and I couldn't really think of that many, which says a lot, really, doesn't it? So, you know, this is definitely an issue that needs to be tackled, and I just think developers need to kind of lose this immature attitude of, like, boobs, hey, look guys, boobs, buy the game. Because, you know, that's old. I mean, obviously, as a female gamer, I'm used to it, and it doesn't really bother me, but it's still nice, it still would be nice, sorry, to actually have some decent female characters for once in a while. I mean, they're very rare, and I definitely feel like, you know, it's a big opportunity that they're missing, because if, you know, you actually manage to pull this off, well, you have a bigger audience for your game, because, you know, you're not going to attract some newbie female person who's not really that into gaming by having some big-breasted stereotype who's only there as a cock tease in your game, are you? So I definitely think it's something developers need to think about. Anyway, I think that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Feel free to leave any comments below, and I'll see you next time.